You think every single Nazi started out saying, I'm just going to try to eradicate a part of the human race? No. These are normal, everyday people. You think those farmers in Afghanistan planting IEDs in the streets woke up one day when they were 8 years old and said, I think I'm just going to try to take an American head? No, these are normal people who have been pressured by bad leadership or threats or whatever into becoming the evil that they hate.
Welcome. Hey, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday. Friday was your birthday.
It's okay.
How old were you?
How was 32.
You? Celebration of life at 32? No, not that type. All right.
But now I'm 33.
33 years
old,
So man.
You actually make a celebration of life joke every single episode.
Since I found out what it actually means. But when the time comes and I have to use it seriously to the way you interpret it, then I'll change it. But celebration of life. Yeah, I'm happy you're still alive, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have a good time?
Yes.
So do you feel like your birthday, being that it fell on Friday, do you feel that it was kind of clouded with all the news that was going on? I mean, do you ever wish, does anybody ever think when their birthday is, whatever day it falls on, if it falls on like a momentous day or occasion?
The momentous occasion was me being born.
Okay, that's one. But so July 20th, July 20th is my birthday. But on July 20th, 1969 was the first time they stepped on the moon. So I don't know. I just like to look at those kind of different dates. Okay, allegedly too. But no, I'm saying I like to look at kind of those dates that kind of represent it. So your birthday Friday.
My birthday was Thursday.
What? It was Friday.
Okay.
What the heck? You told me Friday. You're like, it's my birthday today.
No, I was taking my wife out for dinner on Friday. But it's okay.
Because you made me walk out in the rain on Friday because you said it was your birthday and I felt bad for you.
That was Thursday.
Okay, whatever, Michael. Anyways, but...
Well, I showed up to the gym and Alex was like, well, it's Michael's birthday today. And I was like, why do I not believe you? He said, well, he just told me this morning. I was like, there's a 50-50 chance he made it up. And so I called and she said it was his birthday, so I texted him happy birthday.
Yeah.
See?
Anyways, so...
That was on Thursday.
My point being that you lied about your birthday, but you went into the weekend when there was a lot of news going on, because actually the last few weeks it's been kind of quiet around everything, but big news. Or I think I'm like, how my people.
Okay, Speaker of the House got fired. That's big news.
That's big news.
And so
that's why my anxiety is through the roof.
Your anxiety?
My anxiety. Oh, my bunions hurt too.
Your bunions? Bro, what is happening?
I was actually driving up here trying to think of what correlates with when people's birthday. I like to look at occasions that occur in the past, but I mean, it's not like you're super super famous, but famous to us.
Thanks.
But what the big news is, and I hate to say, I'm not trying to say
a sentence.
I'm just gonna
gosh. This is a train wreck. Okay.
This is turning out to be episode.
Yeah.
So Israel got invaded.
What? Thank you, Jonathan.
That's how you segue.
I know.
Can we please start all over?
Big news?
The big news is the one I messed up on. I had it all planned out in my head, but then I
That would make such a
about
funny clip too, but I cannot clip that and post that on the internet. We will look like absolute scum.
studs.
Yeah.
You could. Big news. Anyways, so your birthday, we're all trying to celebrate it. The news came out.
This is not how a segue works. You go into the next conversation.
Anyways, so found out your birthday was not really Thursday. I mean, not really Friday. It was Thursday. And then Saturday, I find out other countries are being attacked, and yeah, it kind of took away from your birthday.
Don't you need to pee or something?
That's not until minute 10.
So the U.S. sent an aircraft carrier to the west or to the east.
You need a map too. They didn't go to Minnesota.
No, they sent an aircraft carrier to
A whole
Israel,
convoy.
The whole convoy. Yeah, I only read the aircraft carrier part, but I'm sure there's a lot that goes into that or whatever to go try to help what's going on over the east. So very sad situation that's going on over there, and our hearts go out to the folks over there in the Middle East at this time. So I want to keep those people in our prayers for sure.
Well, so from what I understand, the U.S. starts sending their vessels that direction for deterrence reasons. Hamas instantly goes, Israel, we're open to some sort of treaty deal.
Yeah.
And Israel's like, after yesterday? And so it's all out now. That I think that's very much off the table. But I'm very curious to see what happens with the U.S. and what aid really means, and what happens next.
And especially I saw that the number of countries that are actually, obviously helping. Obviously the United Nations, but it's a complicated situation. There are innocent lives being destroyed on both sides, so we have to take that into account. It's sad. Children being killed and murdered. But do we have any history on, so some people who might not know, they've had thousands of years of issues per se.
Well, Hamas came into existence in the 70s.
70s, right.
So, people got to understand this is a organization that the U.S. deems a terrorist organization.
Right.
Well, most countries deem a terrorist organization. This is not necessarily a country. This is not necessarily a government, although they are backed or supported, supposedly, allegedly, by several governments. And so it's very similar to, the U.S.'s 20-year-long campaign against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban for harboring them, and then ISIS and all of these other separate groups that have helped each other or trained or equipped each other, and so it just gets a lot more complicated than one enemy, and it's not good. While of course there's all kinds of history, there almost no war or no attack ever happens without some sort of history to it. It still is horrible, and it's just very, very sad to see what happened.
Well, what I think that's most interesting is that when you get to the point where you're actually going to take another person's life, because it really does kind of boil down to the political views and the religious views. If you look back into the history of it comes to who they want to follow or who their belief is. And it's sad that it takes the fact that you're willing to take somebody else's life because they don't agree with your philosophy is on religion or politics, and that's what it is. They're fighting over land, and I think that here in the United States that probably, obviously everything's my opinion, half America doesn't understand what's going on over there because we don't have it here, but it can happen anywhere. It really generally can happen because what they're fighting for, it's not to the fact where they just met up with each other and they wanted to go against each other. It's thousands of years, and it goes back to their religious views, the Christianity, and their perception of how their land is supposed to be controlled, ran, and it's sad. It's something we should know about here in the United States.
So it's Islam and Judaism,
right?
Are the
and Christianity, because those
clarify.
three of them, the big ones. It was Christianity, Judaism, and I'm sorry, what was the third?
Christianity came out of
Judaism. No, wait.
Judaism,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
So did Islam. But specifically in this conflict, we're talking about Israel, which is a Jewish nation, and then we're talking Islam. But again, we have to be specific because we're not talking about Islam. We're talking about a terrorist organization that is affiliated with it. You know, so I mean, it's just a lot more complicated than maybe what it looks like on paper. But at the end of the day, a terrorist attack that kills hundreds and hundreds of innocent women and children and men and everything else. We've got about a dozen U.S. citizens currently captive in Gaza, from what I understand, and 9 more dead, and that's just the Americans, but we're talking hundreds of people on top of that. Awful, horrible videos of just the pillaging and the just things I'm not going to mention, but I mean just horrible stuff happening, and it's it just, you know, we had a 9/11 episode a few weeks ago, and it just reminds me of, you know, the vengeance, that patriotism that America was feeling, that we have to find these terrorists who did this to us, you know, whatever. You know, that's exactly what's being felt over there too, but maybe even to a greater extent, because this looks like it's an ongoing thing, or will be an ongoing thing on both sides. This was not an isolated attack.
And it goes back to several episodes that we discussed unity, and that cord kind of runs throughout all of our episodes, because what we want are people who just want to be self-reflective of who they are and be a better version of themselves tomorrow, you know, that type of thing. And if we work on that and have a focus of unity, these kind of things go away. We can be unified and still have disagreements, but we can still be unified. We can still work together for a greater goal, and we can do that even if we disagree, or we nationally disagree, or continentally disagree. Whatever those things are, we can disagree but still be unified in this effort. And I think that unity we're trying to reach is innocent men and women and children should not be hurt in that, and trying to achieve that. You know, I read a report or heard a guy talking about the parallel between some of these innocent people that are mixed up with these terrorist groups or whatever, similar to how it was with the Nazis in Germany. You know, it started with a small group of people who were just very oppressive, and it grew and grew and grew to where it became a culture, and the people just gave into the culture and what society told them to do. And to me, there's innocent lives over there in the Middle East that are doing the same thing. They're following what society is telling them to do, and we have to be careful to not just listen to society. Yeah. We'll fall in the same trap. Now, it may not be concentration camps, it may not be sending missiles, but we got to make sure that we're not just listening to society and to dictate who we are and what we do and what we believe.
But unfortunately, I think it already happens at a smaller scale. I mean, recently in California, they have a lot of those flash mob robberies where there's somebody that's convincing groups of people that it's okay to steal from the people who are richer or who have more money, and they're doing all these flash mob. Those are small scales, and people will post it and laugh about it and talk about it, but they don't understand that what's going on right now with Palestine and Israel, that's obviously it's a larger version of what could happen when people follow those that have ill intentions to those that are good people. So the increase of what's going on with that is basically just small terroristic attacks. I mean, if you look at the definition of terroristic, it's basically what they're doing here in smaller scales, but we're minimizing it for whatever reason. And we're thinking, oh, that's in that foreign country, it won't happen here. It can. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I think it can happen here. It's the same concept.
Yeah, there was, in that same talk, there were lots of people who were innocent, but because they were innocent doesn't relieve them of some of the consequence that, you know, they listened to society. They made a terrible decision. I had family really on both sides of that deal in World War II, and the ones that were on the not so favorable side, being the Nazi party, it was just because they didn't want to die. They served because they just needed to survive, and so they didn't have the hate, they didn't have the evilness in their heart, but they had a survival mode. And sometimes when we're in survival mode, we give in and we let our boundaries kind of flex a little bit. We can't do that, and so there were those innocent people, the United Nations or whatever, they got together and they reprimanded Germany They took out a lot of their economy and their manufacturing plants and their facilities, and they had to pay out a lot of money and all that, and it really set Germany back from progressing as a country. Now, you say that and you're like, well, that's well-deserved and all those things. And I mean, to some degree, yeah, but there are consequences even for those that are innocent. And it just goes back to say we've got to be a people who look to unify, look for the common goal, and that's just to better the future generations. At a minimum, we ought to be thinking that. And what does that happen to those children over there in the Middle East? Now, those children that are dying, kids getting hurt, or kids seeing the anger or the evil in the mother and father's, life. I mean, what does that say for the next generation? It's not unity. It's not love, and that's what frustrates me the most.
So, Jonathan, since you're obviously you're into the social media, how do you feel in your stand? How do you feel about the social media aspect of it? Because we talk about social media all the time in the videos. There's so many videos that are being posted. Is that helping us or hurting us, in your view?
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. So I think it's very, very harmful in some ways because it has been it's become a trend to be kind of anti-establishment, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad thing. The U.S. is very much taking one side here, and because of that, you see a trend of young people saying things like "Free Palestine, Free Palestine, Free Palestine," "W Palestine," all these comments all through social media, and that's fine. You can take one side on the land debate or whatever without defending terrorist attacks. The problem is that those comments are now happening in videos of awful things happening to people, in terrorist attacks, of horrible things happening to young women, and what are people doing in the comments? They're turning it into another debate, and they're saying, well, this is all deserved because of thousands of years of oppression or whatever past generational trauma we can bring into the conversation, when at the end of the day, where is the empathy for this young woman that's going through that? You're watching it, and some of these videos, I don't know how they haven't been taken down because they're so gruesome. But in the midst of all of that, you see this groupthink, which is, let me cling on to the first argument that makes the most sense to me and refuse to hear anything else, and then look at some of the most grotesque, horrible things and still stand with my position and not be willing to say that's awful. And so in that way, I think social media has hurt us. On the flip side, you can't have free press and free speech only when it's convenient. And so that same that's a two-edged sword. So on one hand, you have really horrible rhetoric spreading, in my opinion, surrounding this issue, but in a lot of other situations, the media does not cover one side of the story. And because of social media and because of trends and because of people in comments, sometimes truth gets out, regardless of what's being pushed by media, legacy media and that sort of thing. So you either believe in freedom or you don't. So people have their opinions, and social media just ramps that up. You see in New York a representation of that, of the two sides, and just horrible things being marched around on posters and just absolute craziness, and that's fueled by social media. Most people just would not know or would never think to have some of the opinions that they have if it weren't for social media. And again, that can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing. I'm not really taking a side on this. I'm just saying we should all be able to, regardless of who you think has rights over land or whatever, we should all be able to look at horrible things happening to young people and say that's horrible, without turning it into somehow justification for it.
Yeah, because that was the biggest thing for me, was that I actually had to stop myself from actually looking at the videos that were posted on social media, because it just was, one, I mean, obviously it was disheartening, it was sad, it was disappointing, it was depressing. And I also think about situations that, I mean, when we spoke a few weeks ago about 9/11, I mean, I just can't imagine if social media was as around as much as it was back in 9/11, and we're seeing those kind of videos. Would we take it more seriously, or would we have a different viewpoint? Because this, whether it's the agenda or whatever that's being pushed, there's a lot of videos going around, and it's. I mean, I'm still speechless on some of them that I've seen, but I think, which, like you said, it's the fact that the innocence that of the children and the families that are in between, just trying to just mind their own business and live their own life. It's crazy.
Well, and sorry, I'll let Michael chime in a second, but on that 9/11 topic, we put out a video as APECS, and we're a pretty new podcast, and this video did pretty well for the size of our podcast. I think across platforms had 50, 60,000 views or something, but it was on Flight 93, and that the heroes there that took down a hijacked plane. And what was the comment section full of? It was full of, well, this is the U.S.'s fault because they funded this country that then harbored terrorists that then came, or all those debates happened. Are those debates great to have? Do you have the freedom to have those debates? Do you whatever? Yes, sure. But in the process of that, we're talking about, what was it, 13 heroes plus on Flight 93 that gave their lives to save more American lives. And we can't take a second to appreciate that because we're too busy arguing about whatever political divisive opinion that we may have about it. So if 9/11 happened today with that same social media environment, would we have been able to fuel the same level of patriotism?
That's good. That's a good point.
I mean, I sat here on that 9/11 episode going, if we were under attack, I think a lot of that division would go away. Honestly, I'm not convinced.
That's deep.
I hate to say it, but now our military will be more united than ever. We'll go take care of business. But the public, I think regardless, when a war happens, because it's always bound to happen, when a war happens, half of the U.S. is going to be behind you and half the U.S. is not. And that's the way it is. Sad. You don't have that same level of unity that could exist before the divisive nature of social media.
And there's a lot more lives here that we're talking about. We're now sending X amount of soldiers, American soldiers, across the sea to go fight a war on someone else's behalf. Now, I get that we should be united, and that's my overarching point, right? That we should be a united race and have some sort of commonality. There are good people and there are people who make mistakes, but there are evil people, and that's a whole different category. And we're sending all these innocent lives over that we're going to lose American lives. We've lost American lives in the embassy or whatever is over there. And there are people, I've read reports of people visiting the music festival or whatever, and there are Americans that they're missing, their lives have been lost or whatever. And it's just, how many more? I mean, we can talk about just the American side for a moment, but there are a lot of women and children and men who are innocent and just not controversial, they're just living their life, their version of life, that are dying. And to me, that's just awful to hear.
Well, and just to clarify, it sounds like I'm being technical. I'm not, but we don't have soldiers going. We've got sailors, right? When we say soldiers, we would imply ground troops or whatever. So that's not happening yet. And I don't think our Navy is even directly involved yet, but we're moving people that direction, which just makes you nervous. And so then again, I go back to 9/11. When that happened to us, we looked to our allies and people joined us in a fight, right? So if 20 years later that happens to our ally or our friend or however all of that is structured, and we turn away, what happens to us next time? And so I get there's a lot of things to think about in that, but like Michael said, we're not talking about dispute over land necessarily. We're talking about an evil organization whose goal is to eradicate a certain population and take over that area of the world. And that's a different kind of evil than there's a territorial dispute, leave that between them.
We can say
it's a different conversation.
Yeah. They're saying it's territorial. They're saying this is my land, this is where we were from, it's our people, whatever. But they're doing it in a way that just is not right. It's not right for the human race. It doesn't matter what you believe, it's just not right. That's foundational. It's not right.
And for some reason, when I was driving over here, one thing that I thought about and how I have appreciation for being in America is that, to me, I looked at it as almost the political views here. That's literally like when we're coming up to election, time, And that's literally like one mayor or candidate going up to another mayor candidate and just shooting them and killing them. Like, all right, I'm about to win the race. Now I rule over Houston. Like, I don't think that people understand of how our democratic or whatever society that you want to claim it, how it's beneficial. I mean, people need to know what's going on in other countries because of the fact that they think they cannot happen. It can happen anywhere. And one, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be here, but it can happen. I mean, that's because that's exactly what they're doing. They're fighting over land. I mean, you can just imagine now if you have somebody from a Tesla or Keywood from whatever area, and they want to just take over. They send out troops and just start killing us because they want to take the land. It's like people are like, oh, but that only happens over there. No, I mean,
I think we get into those civil disputes though whenever we don't listen to authority. I'm not saying all authority is good all the time. I'm just saying authority in general. If we teach our young men and women to respect authority, when the police officer says to do something, we do it. We say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am type of thing. I'm not saying it covers all facets. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if we change the generation behind us, it makes a better way in the future. That's what it does every time. Not saying people are perfect, but we've got to do a better job about training our young women and children to be good, effective leaders in the future. That's what we've got to do.
We've been saying young women and children so much this episode, we can't get off of it. But
I know.
Young people in general.
Yes, yes. Young women. Yeah, I almost said it again.
Young men, too.
me and Michael, since it was his birthday and he turned like 40, it's you and James that are going to make a difference.
I went from 30 to...
Women and... No.
Yes, that too. His high heels look good. Anyways, but... that's true. I mean, that's exactly how it is, the communication of it and of how we're going to teach. Because, I mean, do you think what's that group? I can never
Hamas.
Hamas. Obviously, they had a leader that they were following. I mean, you have to look back and see somebody basically infiltrated their brain and put, all right, this is the way we're going to do things now. Nobody, I don't believe nobody's born with evil. And that's my personal. I do not believe people are born with evil. People are taught evil. People are brought into evil. Their environment creates them evil. I do not believe a sweet, innocent child is ever born.
So you think Adolf Hitler was a sweet child?
When he was born, yes, he was created. He was created because there's no way that when he was 6 months to a year old, he already had the thought of.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, there's no.
Imagine someone with the persuasiveness and the eloquent speech and the leadership capabilities of that man being fueled to do good.
Right.
Exactly.
Being raised and pushed and had the heart to do good with that kind of ability, that kind of leadership skill. Wouldn't you, this is a dangerous thing to say, but wouldn't you love to have someone with that level of leadership in office in the U.S. who
Correct.
also is using that to do good, right? But again, people are born with different natures to them. But I don't know that any of those are necessarily good or evil. Because of the lack of evil, therefore they are born pure, right, and innocent.
Sure.
But you may be born with a leadership capability. You can use that to lead a lot of people down a horrible path, or you could use that to lead people toward good. In whatever aspect of your life, whatever talents per se that you have, can be used for good or evil. And so again, on the same token that we should be teaching our children to respect authority, we should be teaching them to also be wise and to be watching out, because bad authority can lead you down a horrible road, right? But if we raise that generation to understand certain offices and certain positions to be honorable, what you're also going to have is a young generation that grows up with those same values that end up in those positions, but you have to change the culture from the ground up, from the youngest generation up, because those are going to be the people in leadership someday as well.
Yeah, just a tidbit when you said that about how they educate and they the uprising, just a tidbit. I mean, Charles Manson, who was considered one of our most prolific serial killers, never actually killed anybody. To his name, he was accredited with, over 30 murders, but he never committed a murder. He convinced, 10 to 15 people of his cult to commit the murders. And based on the psychological analysis of all the people that he brought into his group, they, appear just to be normal, people that might have been outcasts, maybe not had a lot of friends, but he had the power of influence to convince them to do it. And I mean, up until, even probably a few years ago, he still was like, I never killed nobody. Everybody else did. But he influenced them. So that's when I mentioned earlier about the small scale that we're like, oh, that can't happen here. Like, yes, it can. Like, it can. It's just at a smaller scale. And it probably has. It's just that we've been able to kind of extinguish it and get rid of it. But it's happening. So, as you said, our education, our youth, making sure that we guide them in the right way, just like what Jonathan is speaking about, is that it's there and it's possible. We have to identify it.
Well, think about the evil of slavery that was done away with in the U.S. Why did that happen? Because our social construct of slavery, our whole system was evil. But people were willing to stand up eventually and say, I recognize that what I'm being told is wrong, and we're going to challenge that. And so there's a place for that. But one of the most important things to realize is that you, the person listening, and the people sitting at this table are capable of great things and are also capable of horrendous things. If you let your mind become depraved, if you let yourself be influenced by the wrong people, the wrong crowds, the wrong leaders, then you are capable of just as much evil as anybody else. You think every single Nazi started out saying, I'm just going to try to eradicate a part of the human race? No. These are normal, everyday people. You think those farmers in Afghanistan planting IEDs in the streets woke up one day when they were 8 years old and said, I think I'm just going to try to take an American head? No, these are normal people who have been pressured by bad leadership or threats or whatever into becoming the evil that they hate. Right. And you have to understand that depending on who you listen to, what direction you follow, you can do one of those two things.
And I believe that those people, those evil people or whatever, have the ability to change, because they change from a normal person, if we can call it that for a moment, into an evil-hearted, directed person that was taught. Well, goodness can be taught too. Sure. And there can be a change of heart that happens with that individual. And I'm not saying that consequences still don't exist, just like they exist for you and I. When we make a poor decision and we go and face consequences, even though we may have changed, there's still a consequence. But at the same time, I believe those people can change.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's kind of proven statistically. I mean, that's what our prison system is built for, rehabilitation.
Prison system.
Yeah, our prison system is built for the rehabilitation. And, last I checked, I read into it. I mean, it's like maybe 35 to 40% of repeat offenders are rehabilitated. But that's still a big number, considering how many people we have in the prison system are for that. So,
do you think our prison system actually is a working entity? And we may have to define what that parameter is, working. I mean,
because do you think it's built for rehabilitation?
No. I don't,
because that's what you just said.
No, I'm saying no. But no, I was saying no. That's based on statistically and based on what is told to us now. What I feel, I don't believe it. I think it's overcrowded. I think the funding is not there, and I don't think every with the prisons, especially from what I've known and read in Texas, I don't think it's the same. But they want to portray it like that. But do I believe it? No, I don't think that.
How many people do you think are in prison in the U.S.?
Oh, in the U.S. 1.5 million.
Okay, 1.2.
Booyah!
You were 300,000, 300 off.
Hey, but that's pretty good. I was that's only because I did read a study not too long ago. I know it was something like 1 million. And
so 1.6 back
Alex
in 2011.
needed to know just in case.
Yes. Which one do I want to go to? No, just kidding.
What'd you look up?
Lord help me. No, but you look at that, but also would be curious to see how many actually prisons are there. How many? They're overcrowded. Let me take a guess. 23,000.
Okay, no.
Oh, less or more?
Bro, there's 50 states in the U.S. That would be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that'd be
Hey,
500
You guys
prisons per
don't
state.
have. Yeah.
Hawaii be full of prisons.
Wait, I meant to say 123,000.
That's still awful.
Bob Barker.
Bro, that's
123,000.
worse.
Bob Barker, one.
You said 23,000,
I
and
said,
then you
I
went
want-
to 123,000. We said it was too much, and you went up by 100,000.
23,000
prisons.
is too much?
Yeah.
There's.
That would be like.
Oh, got you. I meant to say 23. No, 230.
Okay, how
50,
about
50 times 3. Every state has at least 3. That's 150.
50 times 3 is
It's 150.
150.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just tell you. So this doesn't go worse.
Man.
There's 1,566 state prisons, 98 federal prisons, 3,100 local jails, and 1,300 juvenile correction facilities, with 180 immigration detention facilities.
What?
So yeah.
What? No wonder there's overcrowding for 1 point whatever million people. That's not. Yeah. So yeah, there's
That's
no.
like 5,000 facilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. What for 1 million? For over a 1 million people? Yeah. Of course they're not rehabilitation.
That's
going
like
on
what,
there.
2,000 apiece?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
They're
lot.
pretty big facilities.
That's a lot of people
Have you
trying to
drove-
rehab.
Have you gone through Huntsville?
No, yeah, that's crazy. I definitely have only pulled over to the side once or twice, even though there's a sign that says "Do not pull over." I
Imagine
check my
getting a
tires.
flat in that area.
Yes.
Be nerve-wracking.
I know.
You know what's wild? That they have horses right outside there. You're like, is this well thought? Let me just escape real quick and then get on those horses.
That'd be kind of awesome and weird at the same time, but no, they can't do that.
Have you ever watched the show Prison Break? They can do that.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Speaking of Prison Break, it's coming out to season 6.
There was actually
It's
a
like, how many prisons can you
escape,
break out of?
there was an escaped murderer that just got found like last week. I forget
What?
what state that was in. Literally just roaming around a neighborhood.
The one that had escaped from
Pennsylvania?
What depends on. I don't remember what.
Yeah,
he did.
2 weeks
Probably.
ago, yeah. Escaped Pennsylvania killer Danio, whatever, taken into custody after he was subdued.
Is that the one where
by
they
a
took
police
pictures with
dog.
him? Like the whole police crew took a picture with him, and everybody was tripping out about it online because they're like.
Yeah. Throw that baby on the screen.
Wait, is that the
dox
one
him.
where they all took pictures with him? Yeah, that's him. But did they have it where they all
Mugshot's worse than mine.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like his hair though.
Mugshot's worse than mine. And he
But-
said, yeah, that's pretty good.
But that's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, that's where they all took picture with him.
Well, I don't think that's them taking a picture. I think
No, no,
he's
no,
just
they're-
walking to the car.
No, there's a group picture that they all took with him.
He escaped and didn't change clothes.
But
Did he really get caught in that gown thing?
No, he got caught in that Eagles jersey. Go Eagles! I mean Eagles hoodie.
Oh,
But he scaled the wall. He scaled the wall like Spider-Man. Like they had the video of him, the way he scaled. He's like scroll down. It'll about to show. He scaled the wall like Spider-Man. Right there, right there.
Oh, you can play it?
Yeah, play it. Look.
You know, people always ask me.
hello, Kevin Hart.
Sponsor.
That
us.
is not what I thought the guy
Hey,
looked like.
he loves C4, so I mean, you love C4, he loves C4. He's a C4 sponsored athlete. I don't know why an athlete. He don't really do nothing, but I could for sure beat him in a race. What now? Oh, now we're gonna apply
He's
for
like
a
2
credit
feet
card.
tall.
Yeah. You have to wait for the whole thing. Can we add on the budget to have like a YouTube
Commercial free?
I
feature?
feel
Yeah.
like they owe us money now. This commercial's gonna get like 100 more views because of us.
reported earlier this
Watch
morning
this.
that this prisoner, Danilo Cavalcante, was able to climb up onto the roof, and that was how he escaped. A law enforcement source told me that earlier.
Literally.
But, Wolf, I mean, we all just watched that video. I don't think anyone expected it to look as stunning as it just did. Danilo Cavalcante
Look at that.
crowd
Oh
his
my
hands
goodness.
up against one part of the wall,
That's
once up
impressive.
against the other, and basically
The core
shimmying
strength.
up that wall
Yeah.
to the top of the roof. And Wolf, what's incredibly interesting about this is the prison warden says When he got up there, there is still razor wire on top of that roof, and Cavalcante basically just blasted through that razor wire and ultimately escaped.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
That's what I say. He scaled the wall like Spider-Man. That was
That's a
impressive.
design flaw.
So, I mean, obviously, he was definitely taught to be evil at an early age.
That's not evil though.
Well, he murdered somebody.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I thought you were talking about him escaping. I thought you were saying him escaping
di-
was evil. I'm like, that's not evil for him to escape. But,
District
yeah, but
Attorney Michael Jenkins, he murdered someone. Like,
she's gonna drop
Yeah.
my name, bro.
yeah. Yeah, look. Oh, like,
It's in the description.
I was like, what?
Oh, drop my name to the district attorney.
For 2 seconds, I actually felt bad. I was like, now I'm evil because I gave your full name. I'm like, wait, they have all our full names. Yeah, Big Al can be found
That's not
everywhere.
your full name, though.
Yes, it is.
First name Big.
My
last
driver's
name Al.
my driver's license says Big Al, and it's expired. But
No,
anyways,
that's crazy though, because I've always wondered. You hear about these escaped convicts. I'm like, how? What? Did they overpower people? Did they just find a loophole in the design? I mean, that obviously this guy did. But how do you just bust through
because
razor
there's
wire?
2,000 people per. They it's too overcrowded. You think he was going to be
Yeah,
rehabilitated?
there was a lot of people there helping him out of there.
What?
That was not a crowded hallway. That was just him.
Thank
It
you.
doesn't
Right
matter,
on
but
camera.
What I'm saying is that there's 2,000 people. You think you're gonna notice one person? If you go somewhere where there's 2,000 people, are you gonna just really notice somebody's missing? They're not gonna notice it.
Yes, they will.
No. Well,
You know-
obviously they did not.
You know what's crazier to me though?
How long did they take for them to realize that he was gone?
Probably when they all went back to their cell.
No,
it
we
was
could
like
probably Google this.
yeah, it was probably like a day or two before they even realized that he was gone. They're like, "Where's he at? He's in his bed." Like he was gone.
What's crazier to me than people escaping is how they get phones and stuff inside. I have seen literal prisoners on TikTok Live,
Yeah.
and that's like blasted to thousands of people. I'm like, how has this not been found out? I know a guy
They,
who
they make
works.
songs. They make rap songs
Right.
in prison.
I know a guy who works. How would you say it? Like water sanitation or whatever at a prison. And dude, the amount of phones and stuff he said that they found clogging drains, like, an inspection was happening that they had nowhere else to put it, so they just, flushed a phone down the toilet, and they'll just find dozens of them. Like, how do you get that in there? I couldn't get a phone into basic training.
Based
and
on
they're getting
the-
phones into prison.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point.
Okay. He made his escape around 9 a.m. on Thursday. His disappearance prompted an immediate search of the area.
Oh, but that still doesn't say how long because they don't want to let us know. He was probably gone for like a day, and they barely found him.
I thought it said immediate.
They
Yeah, well-
immediately looked for him.
Yeah. Well, okay. What's immediately? Like if you tell me, hey, can you come over here, Alex? I'll be like, yeah. I immediately go. Hey, I can be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, a day.
Bro, you've never said to someone that I'll be there immediately.
Obviously not, because when y'all left me out there, when I was knocking on the door and calling y'all left me out there, and you're
There's
like, I'll be out there immediately.
Use the key.
And it was like 20 minutes. I didn't have the code.
Dude, I've ordered supplements from you before and waited 3 months for them.
Oh yeah, because I'm not a reliable C4 dealer.
We are actually talking about C4 right now, for the record.
Oh yeah. Excuse me. No, C4 energy drinks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Kevin
so
Hart.
what's this date?
This is when he was seen on a trail cam September 4th. So you see him. He's just backpacking.
So
September 5th. So it was August 31st is when he escaped. Okay.
So he was first spotted on the 4th?
He
Let's
got-
see.
He hightailed it out.
So yeah, marshals spotted him an hour after his escape. He was spotted an hour after his escape.
So since you brought that up, I have a question because I've been wanting to ask a question 20 minutes ago. The amount of attention that because we only have a few minutes left. The amount of attention that we place in other instances that occur,
What?
wars, attacks. Like, how can I'm trying to word a question so I don't get vetoed because I get vetoed a lot.
I thought he was going to be like, so back to that earlier conversation, Michael's birthday was Friday, but actually Thursday.
I'm still upset with that. He is a liar. But
Recompute.
Spit it out.
Do we why don't we spend enough? Yeah, I'm about to spit out the C4 because why don't we spend more of our resources for the small little crimes that are going out here and the small little attacks that are going on among our own people, aka what I mentioned earlier about those flash mob robberies. Those things are getting crazy. You look at the crime statistics in Chicago. It's crazy. I mean, they're gonna have 30, 40 people. Why can't we send our troops to like those places to like California when they're having those flash robberies? Like people are posting it where to meet up at. Like the one lady who was arrested and then she started crying. She was like, I was just recording it because I thought it was funny. And they arrested her and everybody, they started a GoFundMe for her and to get her out of jail. If we know ahead of time, why can't we send our troops there? And like how much of
Do
an
we
impact
know ahead of time?
Yeah, where they're posting it because that's how they meet up for these like flash robberies and whatnot. But even just that, just like the killings that go on in Chicago over a weekend.
Isn't that
like,
on the police? Why would we need our troops?
Because they're obviously not doing a good job.
Send the sailors.
Well, I mean, obviously they're not doing a good job. So why can't we send the military to go out there and just start walking on the streets for a few weeks and just? I mean, we're going to spend the same amount of money that we're spending to another country.
So that stuff does happen. I mean, that's part of the purpose of the National Guard. The National Guard is also there for domestic things.
Yeah, but they don't release
there
them
for
as much.
riots and
Natural
that sort of
disasters.
Right. Yeah, but that's more mainstream where if it becomes prominent. But I'm talking about.
But because you don't know it, does that mean it doesn't happen?
You know, the National Guard is like on our border 24/7. The
Oh, yeah,
National
well, that's
Guard's
a whole
doing
different-
drug
yeah,
busts. The
that's
National
all
Guard does
different.
all kinds of stuff.
Okay. I was just curious about that.
I'm sure I mean, to your point, if there is known intelligence about said event, I think there is an effort. Whether the effort can be improved, may be your question. I think it could be improved, but I don't think it's non-existent. I think it does exist. The police force, they have detectives, they have, FBI or whatever that help with that local, not terrorism, but local disrupting the peace type.
That's
I don't-
domesticated terrorism. Like those people that are
Domesticated.
that's domesticated terror. Because even if the fact that what happens if a shop owner comes out and they're losing all their life savings and they're being robbed and they start shooting, what's going to happen? I mean, of course they're going to be arrested and charged. And I mean, like
The shop owner?
yeah, of course. Because what shop owners are coming out and they're going to start shooting at the people stealing all their stuff.
Me?
Yeah, me too. Oh, I agree with it.
100%.
If they start coming out with dumbbells and plates and they're like, "Hey, leave my squat rack alone," pow, I'll shoot them.
No, it is interesting how that works though, because the laws are different everywhere. In Texas, you can use lethal force for your property, for the protection of your property. Other places, you actually can't use lethal force unless it's to protect life. So it's very important to know where you're at, but that's why I'm in the great state of Texas, baby.
Yeah, because there was that
There's
incident.
one solution that fixes all problems here.
Shoot them. Because there was that incident in California where the two shop owners started beating the guy with a broom, and then they got charged with assault. And the guy, held a knife to him, robbed the money till and everything, and they beat him with a broom. Obviously the charges were dropped, but they still have to go through that stress and drama. It's like, no, I don't like that.
To be clear, the penal code permits the use of force to protect property. It does not permit the use of deadly force to protect your property under most circumstances. This changes when someone attempts to forcefully enter your house or enters your house by force.
The ground.
That's specifically what I was talking about, the stand your ground law,
Stand your
or
ground law.
castle doctrine. But there are, people get in trouble over that though, because they'll say, oh, well, we have the castle doctrine. Well, yeah, that means something different everywhere that you live.
Yeah. Everybody's
got a castle doctrine, meaning you can protect yourself in your house, but what that means and the implications of that can be very, very different.
And
this is not legal advice. For the record,
Just in
don't,
Texas.
Don't go telling them Jonathan told you could shoot people.
Well, there are entities out there that you can subscribe to or pay a monthly fee. Like in Texas, if you're a gun owner, there are some programs or some organizations that you can pay a monthly fee to help you with legal matters and things of that nature. I know the name, but
Oh my God! Yeah, one of my guys just
We're not
mentioned to
sponsored.
it. Yeah,
We're
no,
not
we're,
sponsored.
but maybe we should reach out to him. But yes, so one of my guys mentioned that, and they provide if you actually shoot somebody, and then
I pay
that's
for
crazy.
it each month because I am a licensed gun owner.
for the right reasons.
I'm a gun owner.
I'm a gun owner. I have a license because there was a license at the time I wanted to carry a pistol,
But I mean, with everything we were talking about, because of all the violence that's going on, I mean, I think it's what we kind of went back and said, and we can kind of close it out with this, is that we were raised differently. Obviously, we're sitting here. We've all had different experiences in our lives, and we've all experienced different things. But overall, we weren't raised with evil, so we can have a weapon with not the intent to cause harm without no malice. I mean, with malice. Like, we're not trying to harm anybody, unintentionally. And just because I don't like the way you think politically, religiously, spiritually, physically, whatever. So that just goes to show that you can be safe under certain terms. I mean,
If you
They're
raise enough of a generation to be dangerous and moral, then there's just a lot less incentive for bad people to do bad things.
correct. Well, it was an old saying where they were saying that don't fear the danger of a man.
Yeah.
You know what?
I know.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait.
I have no idea what you're
Yeah.
saying right
I was about to say. You're about to read it.
I was like, what? You got
Oh,
something from that?
man, that connection was real too, but it
was
all
not, it
went
was
all
fake.
way. Do not fear the
The one that
man.
can hurt the body, but the one who can destroy your soul. That's an old saying.
Yeah.
now.
Bingo.
Goes back a couple thousand years.
Forget you, Jonathan. I thought we had that one connection. I was
That's the first thing you've said all night. That was a complete thought.
too much going on.
No, but our hearts and minds and prayers and go out to the people over in the Middle East. What we want is unity, and it starts with us at home raising our kids. And if you're listening to this and you're raising kids, you have a responsibility, and your responsibility is grave, and that is to raise your kids a better generation than you are, and to have them lead their families well, and to love on people and try to have some unity. I mean, that's what we want. So
Say it, say it, say it.
I want
And
to
make good decisions over long periods of time.
Amen.
Amen.
That's a good ending.